This is a Canon Rebel T6i, and this is considered an entry-level camera. But I'm currently shooting on the Canon 90D, which is a mid-tier level camera. So what makes the Canon Rebel T6i an entry-level camera? Well, I thought in today's video I would go through some of the reasons why you should maybe not buy an entry level for your first camera, but instead go with a mid-tier level DSLR instead of a beginner, and some of the differences as to why. So let's get into it. I've had this camera for quite some time. I've had the Canon 90D for not even a full year yet. I've had it for almost a year. But this Canon Rebel T6i, which came out, I believe, in 2016, if I'm correct. Although this camera did an amazing job and I was able to produce a lot of great images and learn photography, I learned how to use Lightroom and Premiere Pro with this camera, shooting B-roll and talking head sequences like this. I learned how to color grade using the neutral picture profile and using Cine style on this camera. But honestly, there are some heavy downsides to buying an entry-level DSLR, especially an APS-C camera. So let's go over some of the things that you should watch out for and avoid when buying your first camera. Let me put this down first. There we go. It goes in the background. Anyways, welcome to a new video. My name is Indira and I'm a content creator and photographer from the San Francisco Bay Area. Some of the things that you should look out for when considering buying a beginner camera is what type of features does it have? Not only the video capabilities, but now photo capabilities. A lot of cameras are video-centric and or photo-centric, but a lot of cameras would do both pretty well. So what should you look out for, and why should you avoid an entry-level camera? A lot of beginner cameras, such as the one behind me, doesn't have 4K. And even though 4K is technically becoming the standard nowadays for video, 1080p is still good enough, and it will be for the following years. Except with the Canon T6i, you only have 60 frames per second as the highest frame rate. On the Canon 90D, you have 120 frames per second, although there is no autofocus, but you still have this feature. It's considered a higher end feature. Another thing to consider is that the Canon 90D has digital stabilization, and this comes in handy when you want to do slow motion shots, or even if you want to do steadier shots at even 24 frames per second. And even though it does digitally zoom in, you still have that security that you're going to get a smooth image. Now the older camera doesn't have that, and it's really tough to get handheld B-roll shots, especially if you don't have a gimbal and if you're just using the camera, or if you don't have a lens that has stabilization, which is the one that I'm currently using. Also, the ergonomics of both of these cameras are very different. The Canon 90D has a very deep grip and it feels very secure in your hands, whether you have a battery grip on it or just the camera itself. It just feels better built and more premium in the hands, which does make a difference if you are using this camera every day for creating content. Speaking of ergonomics, the button layout on the camera itself is extremely important for both video and photography. The Canon 90D has a joystick in the back. You can then follow a certain subject by using the joystick on the back, so it's easier to track a certain subject and have different ways of tracking that subject. The Canon 90D has a dial or wheel on the back, which makes it super easy for having this as a custom function mode, or for just scrolling through your pictures on your camera. Also, the Canon 90D has more custom function modes than the Canon Rebel T6i, and that is huge when you are relying on this camera for your everyday use. It has custom functions 1 and 2 on the dial up top, but it also has more features in customizing the button. Another downside of this camera, and I think one of the reasons why you should save your money and go for, again, something like the Canon 90D, is the battery. This battery is an LPE17 battery, if I'm correct. Yeah, LPE17 is extremely weak and it doesn't last that long. And honestly, considering the price, it makes sense that they would use a cheaper battery. But once you go to something like the Canon 90D that has the LP6, the LPE6 or the LP6N batteries, you will not want to go back to these tiny little batteries that have barely any power and that lose power super fast. So both of these cameras are APS-C size sensors, so the sensor is not full frame. But the Canon 90D does have 30 megapixels, or it has 32 megapixels, while I believe the T6i has 26 or 24. I'll put it up on the screen. That does make a difference, especially for photography. If you want to zoom in or crop in on a photo, the Canon 90D, you can do that and it still looks amazing. The photo still holds up and you don't notice that much of a difference in noise. But this, you can't really crop in on a photo. It does start to fall apart pretty quickly and you can tell the difference in resolution. The last factor to consider is that this camera does not come with a headphone jack. Now it does have a microphone and a timer, and it has an HDMI and an AV out digital, but I don't know if this has a clean HDMI out, and Canon 90D does. So you can do live streams, and I have done live streams on a separate channel using the Canon 90D, and it performs very well. It works seamlessly with Streamlabs or OBS. I would say save your money up, go with a more expensive camera. Don't get me wrong, I love this camera. I mean, it taught me the basics of photography and I will always be grateful for that, but it's just, you want a camera that you can grow with and not that you necessarily outgrow. Because cameras are expensive, so are lenses, and so buying a camera that you can have for years down the line is extremely important. Rebel T6i, I'm sorry, but you've been downgraded, my friend. Rest in peace. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. If you did get something out of this video, then please like and subscribe for more content. I do have some pretty cool content coming up, and I mean it. I'm working at a camera store soon, and they might or might not be letting me take home some of the cameras to test out. You know that I will be reviewing those on this channel. Stay tuned and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.